Pablo Escobar clearly understood that for his name to remain unshakable, it took not only the power of money and weapons but also the right image among the people. That's why he created an entire department dedicated to finding people in difficult situations. This was not mere charity but a strategy, selecting stories that would touch hearts. For example, when an elderly woman lost her son to illness, Escobar personally visited her, paid for her grandchildren's treatment, and then financed the repair of their home. Such cases quickly became legends that spread through the neighborhoods. People would ask each other, "Who is he? He's our protector and patron, the only one who cares about us." He commanded a loyal army of followers, even among those who knew very well how he made his money. Pablo skillfully built his image not only as a criminal authority but also as a benefactor who listened to ordinary people. For this, he had a whole team that searched for those in trouble. Sick children, damaged homes, impoverished families, all became opportunities for grand gestures. For instance, when an old farmer lost his only cow, the family's sole provider, Pablo personally gave him a new cow and helped repair the barn. These deeds quickly spread by word of mouth across the neighborhoods. People said, "Who else will help us if not him?" Pablo lived large. Not far from his beloved Medellín, he built a true empire, Hacienda Napoles, sprawling over more than 20 square kilometers. In the colonial villa, he stored cash in such huge bundles that he spent thousands of dollars monthly just on rubber bands to hold the stacks. Part of the money was eaten by rats, up to 10% every year. The estate had everything: a garage with a collection of vintage cars, a private brothel, a runway with a monument to the Piper Super Cub plane, a symbol of his first successful shipments, a Formula One racing track, and even a zoo with lions, tigers, giraffes, and hippos. The story of the hippos continued after his death. They were released into nearby swamps and began to multiply, becoming a serious ecological problem for Colombia. Over time, he added an artificial lake to the estate where he held boat races and salsa concerts in the evenings. He could invite an entire orchestra just for one favorite song. He loved to surprise guests, both ordinary friends and powerful allies. But behind the facade of luxury was sleepless work. He personally checked supply routes, disguised shipments as bananas or coffee, and sometimes even took the wheel himself to save the cargo from sudden raids. It was not so much a matter of trust in others as a desire to keep everything under his own control. In 1976, when he was 26, he married Maria Victoria in Vallejo, who was 15 at the time. They met when she was only 12. Her family was strongly against the marriage, not because of her age, but because they considered him dangerous. Eventually, Pablo kidnapped his beloved with her consent, and the next day they got married in a church. Maria later recalled that Pablo had prepared her from childhood for the role of a wife and took marriage very seriously. The first years of their life together were far from romantic. During the day, Maria attended school, and in the evenings she took care of household chores, while Pablo disappeared on his business. He was often seen with mistresses, but his wife accepted this as a given, believing that all men were like that. In 1977, she gave birth to their first child right in the middle of an English exam, barely making it to the hospital in time. At the same time, Pablo continued to build his image as a folk hero. He personally visited poor neighborhoods, gave children sweets and soccer balls, financed the construction of playgrounds, and even organized a street soccer tournament, where the winners received uniforms and paid trips to watch the national team's matches. He paid off debts for poor families to save them from losing their homes and transported doctors to remote villages where people had never seen medical care. His name became synonymous with hope for some and fear for others. Life with him was far from a fairy tale. During the day, Maria went to school, and in the evenings, she did housework while he disappeared on work. Sometimes rumors about his mistresses reached her, but Maria decided to accept it. All men are the same, but at least mine provides for the family. In 1977, right in the middle of an English exam, she went into labor and barely made it to the hospital to give birth to their first child. Meanwhile, Pablo was expanding his business, investing money not only in drugs but also in weapons, planes, and political influence. One of the most interesting episodes of those years took place at his private airstrip. He often gathered there with partners, including old friends from poor neighborhoods. On the tables lay stacks of money, weapons, maps with supply routes, and nearby, a small plane ready for takeoff. These meetings could last all night, and Pablo made decisions that affected the whole country. Among his people, he could be playful, telling stories from his youth when he sold small goods on the streets and stole gasoline from parked cars to resell. But at the same time, he was always alert. Even with a glass of whiskey in hand, he kept his hand close to his gun. This combination of a caring folk hero and a ruthless businessman made him a figure who inspired both love and fear. And as time showed, he maintained this image until the very end. In the 1980s, Pablo Escobar already controlled a significant part of the U.S. cocaine market. His planes flew nonstop, sometimes carrying several tons of cargo at once. Pilots occasionally dropped barrels of cargo at designated points in the middle of the sea, where they were picked up by fast boats. Once, during a storm, a pilot lost orientation, and the cargo fell somewhere completely different. According to legend, local fishermen found it and wore new gold chains and watches for weeks afterward. During those years, Pablo launched a campaign of hearts and wallets in Medellín. He funded the construction of entire neighborhoods for the poor, gave out food packages, and paid for medical treatment. Soccer fields appeared in the city with plaques reading "Gift from Don Pablo." This not only increased his popularity among ordinary people but also ensured silence. In the neighborhoods he helped, the police rarely found witnesses to his crimes. Pablo Escobar clearly understood that for his name to become unshakable, it required not only the power of money and weapons but also the right image among the people. He created an entire department dedicated to finding people in difficult situations, not simply as charity, but as part of a strategy. For example, when an elderly woman lost her son to illness, Escobar personally visited, paid for her grandchildren's treatment, and financed the repair of their home. Such stories quickly became legends that spread through the neighborhoods. People would ask each other, "Who is he? He's our protector and patron, the only one who cares for us." Thanks to this, he commanded a loyal army of followers, even among those who knew what he was really involved in. Pablo lived large. Not far from his beloved Medellín, he built a huge estate, Hacienda Nápoles, sprawling over 20 square kilometers. It was a true empire of luxury, a garage with a collection of vintage cars, a private brothel, a runway with a monument to the Piper Super Cub plane, a symbol of his first shipments, and even a Formula One racing track. Most impressive was the private zoo with lions, tigers, giraffes, and even hippos. After Escobar's death, the hippos escaped into nearby swamps and began to multiply, creating a serious ecological problem. Beyond the luxury, behind the facade was tireless work. He personally controlled supply routes, disguised shipments as bananas or coffee, and even took the wheel himself to save cargo from raids. It was less a matter of trust and more a desire to keep everything under his own control. At the same time, he skillfully built his image as a benefactor. Supporting poor families, treating sick children, building playgrounds, all this earned him the status of a folk hero, even though bloody crimes hid behind his back. Despite his ruthless business, Pablo was a master of image. He often visited poor neighborhoods, handing out sweets and soccer balls to children, funding the construction of playgrounds, and organizing street soccer tournaments. Winners received uniforms and trips to watch national team matches. He also paid off debts for struggling families to save their homes and brought doctors to remote villages where medical care was almost non-existent. For many, his name became a symbol of hope, a protector in a harsh world. But life with Pablo was far from easy. His wife, Maria Victoria, lived in the shadow of his dangerous world. Though she accepted his affairs as part of life, she remained devoted, raising their children and managing the household while Pablo expanded his empire. His dual identity, caring benefactor to some and merciless kingpin to others, left a complicated legacy that still fascinates the world today. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about the complex figure of Pablo Escobar? Was he a hero or a villain? Subscribe to the channel for more stories that uncover the truth behind famous personalities and historical events. Your support helps us bring you even more incredible tales.